Oh my God. That was amazing, wasn't it?
Amazing. Amazeballs.
Amazeballs. So welcome everyone to CrowCast Tuesday Night Live Season 2020 PreSeason. So we're all a bit dusty, we're all a bit rusty. We're still wearing our Blue Strikers uniforms and all that sort of stuff. But Pete, how are you going? How was Christmas?
Really well, mate. Got away to the East Coast and found my way through the fires and the smoke and the haze. I had not that you're probably interested, but I had a day in Canberra where the air quality meter reading for hazardous was 200. We had it at 4,000.
Yep.
So we were
That's
locked
incredible.
inside. It was pretty bad. But anyway, other than that, really good, mate. What about yourself?
Mine was pretty cruisy. Didn't do a hell of a lot. But obviously the presence of a grandson for the first Christmas was always pretty good, and he's smashing it. Little Jasper, he's just turned 1, so he's sort of first steps and all that sort of stuff, and he will be featuring in the Rev Up this year, Jasper's Tips. I don't know how we're going to do it just yet. We might just have him crawling over something, or we might have him doing, I don't know what we're doing, but we'll work it out, me and Cam.
Picking a bucket.
Yeah, or something. And the dulcet tones of Nikki in the background there. How about your Christmas, Nick?
I had one that I can highly recommend not everybody to have. It was quite expensive because I had to have a tooth taken out that morning.
Oh, that's not good.
So my family enjoyed it because I wasn't supposed to speak the whole day.
Unfortunately, you've had a speedy recovery as well.
You know me.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, I'm glad to see you back on deck. And welcome to everyone who's joined us for this pre-season Shake the Rust Out cast on Spreaker, DSG, Brent, Jace, all the usual. I'm sure we'll see a bit of Michael and a bit of Vardy at some stage. But look, thanks everyone for joining us. It's going to be pretty rough because I've got a new setup here. And it's been a while, and we tend not to think about it too much when we're not doing it. So look, let's get into some news, shall we, Peter?
Well, probably the big news, Fiend, was the T20 showdown on Sunday. Not strictly footy related, but it was certainly participated in by the footy players, and I got along to the game. I had a look, and I know you did as well, Nikki. And it was it was really entertaining, and it was terrific for the guys to get out there. And tell you what, I have to say, I know it's a footy show, not a cricket show, but Matty Crouch just was keeping to international bowlers like it was nothing. Did you see the stumping off the Rashid Khan Rongan?
Yeah, he's ticked it.
That was a first-class stumping. I was in direct line in the member stand, and it was as sharp a bit of work to a fast-spinning Rongan as you'll ever see, because it's so hard because it cut the batsman or the batswoman in half.
Yeah.
It was just an unbelievable bit of work, and then he was just keeping to Kane Richardson like it was nothing. And yeah, he's I think we all know he's got a strong cricket background, but I saw a funny comment just watching him bat, Nikki. I saw a funny comment on Twitter and that saying that Matt Crouch, no matter what sport he plays, he's an accumulator.
And he does love to do better than his brother.
Yeah, That's right. Look, a bit of news from Facebook Live. We got William joining us from Tassie. It was 40 degrees one day, and today there's snow on Mount Wellington. So, who'd live in Tassie? I don't know. Look, let's talk about the Crows first up. We're looking all right injury-wise. Oh my God, I just said it again. I think we said this last year, didn't we? But there hasn't been a lot of news come out of the club so far this off-season.
No, I haven't seen really anything at all. There was a little bit of chatter early in the season that Ned McHenry was carrying something, but that sort of went away, and he seems to be in full training. Certainly, a couple of the bits that I've seen, he's going full whack. So, certainly nothing serious. There was obviously we had Darcy Fogarty withdraw from the cricket because of a little bit of hamstring tightness, but again, I would imagine that's just precautionary more than anything. But touch wood, Fiend. I haven't heard anything significant.
Well, the only one's Hardigan, which had gone in for a bit of surgery. But apart from that, the others, I mean, we've had a few reports and we've seen that we've had some of our younger players or those newer type of players are being managed.
Yeah.
But by the look of a bit of the vision that we've seen, they're participating in the match drills. So that's what you want to see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of the fog, I was introduced to one of Fogg's very close relatives. I can't remember whether it's his sister or his cousin or something like that. It might be his cousin, I think, at the little one's first birthday. So don't you worry, I've put in the request. So we might even get a bit of a Darcy interview before the beginning of the season. Some of the stories I won't repeat that were told. But good to make that connection. And look, to be honest with you, AFL in general has been unusually quiet over this pre-season. Usually they want to sort of stay in the news cycles and, remain relevant during the cricket season and the tennis and all that sort of stuff, but it has been unusually quiet, almost too quiet, Peter.
Well, the only thing that seems to have bubbled along a little bit was this business of the shorter half-time breaks.
Yeah.
And having created a bit of discussion about that, I see just yesterday that they pulled the pin on that. They'll keep the halves as they have been. So that's really about all that's been out of AFL House per se. There was a little bit of news today that Melbourne have signed Harley Bennell, so they've picked him up on a supplementary list. So he's going to get a second crack at it, or a third crack at it, I should say. So good luck to him, and hope he can make every post a winner.
I mean, I guess it costs him nothing, but geez, that's a big gamble, isn't it?
Big gamble, but as you say, it cost them nothing. And he was a guy that shaped up to be one of the most talented in the AFL when he was on song up on the Gold Coast, and of course a history of calf injuries since then. I think someone was always going to take a risk on him somewhere along the line, and just too much talent not to, really.
Yeah, yeah.
The other one is possibility of an Irish recruit for us in Cathal McShane.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? How's that all panning out?
Well, he came out for the 2 weeks.
Yep.
They put him in with Pahulki and Murphy. So not sure what to make of that. But those guys put some little clips out of him kicking, and I think, as Pahulki said, he kicks better than he does already. And he's gone back, and his club, Tyrone, didn't know he was back until he turned up to actually watch them play. And there was a report today from over there that the inkling is that he's pretty much told them he's not, well, he hasn't officially told them that he's not going to be playing for them this season, but by the sounds of it, that he is interested in a move to Australia. So I wonder whether there's we might hear some movement on that front in the next couple of weeks.
The biggest thing about that is that this kid is a bona fide Gaelic footy champ in the making.
Superstar. It's
the first time that they've, the people that have come out have generally either been fridge players, or they've been at the twilight of their careers, or what have you. But this kid is the equivalent of a Dylan Shield or
Dusty.
A Dusty, absolutely.
Dusty.
And
the top goal scorer.
And
was this the big redheaded kid?
Yes,
the big redheaded kid. Yeah.
And the Gaelic Footy Association, they're kicking off about this to the AFL, because this is probably the biggest, threat, if you want to call it that, to their competition in all the time that we've had international rules and that loose association. So, of course, it's the Crows that cause a bit of a ruckus, because when someone else does it, no one cares. But when we do something, of course, the world's caving in. But he's obviously a good kid.
Well, Brisbane were into him first.
Yeah.
And he was going to go out and trial with them, and then we kind of snuck in and stole him.
Yeah.
To give him a two-week trial here. Now, it's not just the men, though, as well. there's a lot of really the top women players we're seeing through the AFLW.
Oh, and that's going to be a real talent pool for the AFLW if they want to fast track developing the game. To bring in those girls that have been in the Gaelic footy system, that's a real bonus if they can get them across.
And it's not just like those second tier ones, like you said. We're getting some of their top players, and they're looking to be a bit more interesting because you actually get paid.
Yeah, that's right. It's a bit of a bonus for these girls. But yeah, that was interesting news, and I do hope he comes across because, like. When you've got that, you were just talking about Matty Crouch, Pete, playing cricket and having obvious talent in cricket. I'm a big believer that if a kid is genuinely talented in one sport, they're genuinely pretty good at a lot of sports. And given the similarities between the two codes, he could be another little smoky.
Yeah, and as Jason quite rightly points out in the chat, he's a good sized lad. He's over 190, isn't he?
I believe so. 194, I think.
Yeah, I think he's about that, and he's solid, but he's also very mobile and quite quick from a couple of the highlights. I know a lot of people, when they saw his highlights, they really like, as you alluded to earlier, Pete, the dusty fend off. He's got some nice little tricks.
Yeah.
So do we know how his
trial
went and whether he...
No, we got no vision, nothing else. But if by the sounds of it that his club didn't know he was back and he'd been back for a week, and they're already making noises of, we're pretty sure he's going, I think it might have gone okay.
Well, as you quite rightly say, Fiend, there'll be a rule implemented by the AFL that will take effect just prior to the start of the season, and it will be a limit on the amount of Gaelic players that can be signed by AFL teams, and that limit would have just been filled by one of the other Melbourne clubs signing the last one, so no doubt we'll have to go back and he won't be able to play for us. I can see that coming.
I think the AFL will very happily allow him to be stolen and playing here.
Yeah, but by us, Nick. Now, speaking of pre-season and, a lack...
Pre-Stephen.
Scott Stevens. A lack of polish. Facebook Live has been going for now 13 minutes, and I've only just realised that I had... the stream audio muted on Facebook Live. So, William, I'm very sorry about that, but thanks for pointing out to me. He just said to me, he just chatted in there, he said, any audio yet? And I'm looking going, what? What are you talking about? So don't worry, people on Facebook, I'll do something to make sure that the stream, when I post it up later, it's got the full audio. But you didn't miss much anyway. So before we push on, just let's have it was a fairly tumultuous end to the season for the Crows. A couple of noticeable expulsions from the club. Unfortunately, Robbie stayed on, but that's okay. He's probably on his last legs, but. We've had Matty Nix come on, obviously. We've got what's his name? Adam Kelly as the new GM Footy Ops. And we had a lot of word that Rupert Satwell was going to be the culture guy. But some other bloke. What's his name, Nick, again?
He's the Stargate dude. Daniel Jackson.
That's it.
From Richmond, who I think was he and Duncan Kellaway were teammates. So we actually have a nice little Richmond link going on there between the two of them at our club.
Now, but I think that's really significant because we all know that the turnaround that happened at the Richmond Footy Club, and I actually think Daniel Jackson's appointment's been understated because Richmond redid their whole culture from the inside out. You can tell by the way Damien Hardwick talks now. He's gone from that hard-nosed, poor communicator to everyone's around my place for a barbie and I love yous all and that, I don't care whether Alex Rance resigns because I love him and it's just a big love fest at Richmond now. So, but it's translated into a transformation in that club. So, if Daniel Jackson can bring some of that cultural shift to the Adelaide Footy Club and, just peel back some of the corporate layers and turn it into a bit more of a caring, compassionate environment for these players, hopefully we end up with the same results.
And he's not just a former Richmond player, though. He's worked for AFL Europe as a commissioner. He's also worked. Has his own consulting business. He's worked with a lot of top line other sporting organisations and top line sporting clubs. So he's got that really well-rounded experience, and he's been a little bit out, being based overseas for a number of years, away from what's in here. So I think that's actually a really good appointment as well. And I think that's what we liked about Sapwell, but I can see the same thing in Daniel Jackson.
He's got a master's degree too in, I think, some aspect of psychological something or other.
Yeah.
Thanks for your insight, Peter.
Which sounded good to me. I can't remember what it was now. Had a few words attached to it, so it all goes to his CV, and it all sort of looks impressive to me.
Yeah, I just think any time you get someone out of a successful environment, it's a bonus. And given what Richmond have been able to achieve over the last 3 to 5 years, and given the position, I think it's a very, very good and underrated get by the Adelaide Footy Club.
Yeah, agreed. No, it was a good get.
And as we mentioned, the club's been pretty quiet, so but all very positive. Everything that's coming out of the club via AFC media, all the socials, all the public appearances, as few as they've been, all been very, very positive, very inclusive. Everyone's happy. I
do have to say though that the social media stuff they've been putting out, they've been very on top of the game. They've really raised the bar with what they've done. I know Pete's got some reservations that it's all been a bit lovey-dovey and we're not kind of seeing the full truth. But what they are putting out, yes, it does fit in with that, but it's pretty darn good if you have a look at what other clubs put out.
I think don't get me wrong, I think it's terrific from an entertainment point of view. I mean, we saw the one put up yesterday with, or was it today, with Rat?
Yeah.
Good stuff, funny, well produced, and a nice little fluff, funny thing that showed some of the players, and full credit, no criticism at all. But it's not giving us. I mean, we have no clue. No clue at all how they're tracking pre-season wise, and there's been a few of those little fluff things put out as well. And so, look, the other thing I was going to say, Nikki, and I know that I know what you were referring to, and we saw a lot last year about how happy everybody was, and we had lots of vision of everybody laughing and all that good stuff, and we knew that underneath, we now know, I should say, underneath that there was a lot of simmering tension. So that boil's now been burst and lanced, and so hopefully, I think on balance, I'd rather see something like what I saw with Rat yesterday, which I know was just an entertaining fluff piece, probably better than footage from training, seeing everybody laughing and carrying on which they don't really do at pre-season training probably.
I did like a couple of the photos they've been putting up, particularly the one of the match sims where Ned McHenry is having an absolute go at the umpire, and the club highlighted that photo. This kid does not like losing. Even in a little match sim, he's full on wanting to win. So they've been putting a few of those little things. So what it's doing is it's giving us an insight in how they want particular players to be perceived. And it feels like we're being invited in. It's a very calculated thing that they're doing, but they're doing it very well. So I want to give them a little tick for that.
Look, at the end of the day, I don't think we can complain, can we?
No.
I don't think we got everything that we wanted, but we got a fair bit. We got a bit of refresh at the club. Obviously, if nothing else, Peter and Nick, I reckon they're now extremely conscious that they can't take the membership for granted. I think there was a bit of lip service paid to some of it, but just the sheer weight of negativity towards the club towards the end of last season just made them grudgingly have to respond to it. So that's, if nothing else, it's a shot over the bow from the membership, I reckon, to say we'll give you a fair bit of leeway, but don't get carried away with yourselves.
Spot on, and think last year or end of last year was the first time they've actually really had to roll up the drawbridge because
God, yeah.
and protect the premises because I think that they really they really felt there's no doubt in my mind they really felt the pressure and in a way they probably haven't before. So absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
Probably the last thing we should talk about are the leadership groups for both teams. So for the men, we now have knowledge that Tex and Talia, even though they were voted by a lot of the playing group to be considered in the leadership group, they were. It's a bit of it interesting as to who asked who, but it's more like a mutual discussion of they've taken a step back to allow some new blood in. So we have Rory Sloane as our sole captain for the team, and with some new blood coming into the leadership team for the men's with Duday and Smithers, which is great to see.
Yeah, not unexpected Duday. Smithers, I think it shows a bit of a shift in his attitude since his ACL, I reckon, just taking it to the next level. I was a little bit surprised about Talia, Pete. I know that he is getting to that senior level, but he's been such a vocal advocate for hard work and teamwork and team ethos and all the rest of it. I'm a little surprised that maybe he wasn't given the right-hand man duties for Rory.
I think very surprised. Not a little surprised. Probably just using it as a turn of phrase, I was extremely surprised that he was outside of the group, to be honest, and I'm not sure what the backstory is there.
I wonder, though, if it's more to do with the fact of because he was taking a lot longer in terms of his preparation to get back up for games. Yeah. Just his age profile where it's at. So all those extra meetings and everything else, that takes away some time from your recovery. So I think they want him on the field. His leadership on the field is second to none. And I did find there was the Knicks interview from Friday where he did talk a little bit about it, and he actually talked about Fisher Mackesy, that when they drafted him, the first thing they said to him is, you're going to love it. You're going to work with the best defender in the AFL. And that's what Talia has.
We don't have Alex Rance. We don't have Alex Rance, Nick.
Nobody has Alex Rance, thank God.
Isn't he the best defender in the universe in the history of mankind, Alex Rance? Except when he plays on... Anyway, let's move on from that. Look, I agree, Nick. I think the reason is likely to be physical with Tails. He goes through periods of time where he looks like an old man, doesn't he? And I just wonder... I wouldn't be at all surprised if what you said was right in terms of his recovery time and his ability to get up for games and where they most want to use his talents. So,
he's always struggled in because of how physical games are on him and the way he plays it. He's always taken a lot longer in terms of recovery than many other players. So I think, me knowing that little bit of knowledge, I think that's where that's at. And I'm okay with
now. We've made a commitment here on the CrowCast that Tuesday Night Live is going to be fast, snappy, interactive, all that, and we've rambled on for 25 minutes, so let's move on.
Well, AFLW is the best thing that's happened in sport in my lifetime, and that's because it not only provides opportunities and a pathway for girls and women playing the sport, it's also smashing stereotypes around women and physicality, and it says to girls and women that you can create your own version of what it means to be a girl or a woman. And all this stuff to me is really important. As much as I love winning on the field, it's the broader social context that really excites me, and AFLW is leading the way there. It's just been fantastic to see it develop, and I was the first to celebrate Gil McLaughlin's decision to bring it forward 3 years, and the opening year of the competition was fantastic. The AFL gave it the recognition and the support that it warranted. But it does feel like after the first season that they have dropped the ball and didn't promote it as heavily as they should. You know, in that end of the first round in that second season, there was the discussion about, you know, it wasn't attacking enough, and all of the coaches were contacted and the memo went out and all that stuff. And that gave the impression that it was broken.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for the sport to recover from that. The perception was that there was something wrong with it. And in, you know, they seem to put all their advertising and promotion into online campaigns, and nothing really was all that visible on television and in newspapers, in those types of media. So I feel like, there's been... they haven't nurtured it the way that they should, because women's football is the golden egg. You know, it's... girls' footy is the fastest growing segment of the sport. We have to nurture this thing because it is the future. There are so many girls wanting to play Australian football. They're being turned away from clubs. They certainly are in Victoria, because there are so many wanting to play. We're running out of grounds. You know, thankfully we have a state government here, you know, that's supporting girls' football, and there's you know, building female-friendly change rooms and really trying to keep up with the demand. So it's a magical thing. It's wonderful to see girls pushing their bodies to the limit and having this pathway. But at that elite level, the AFL, I believe, hasn't done enough in the past 2 seasons to support this wonderful competition. So I think they have recognised that they haven't done enough, and they've apologised, and they're going to do things differently.
So we were very, very lucky, weren't we, Nikki and Pete, last year to have Angela Pippos on the show. We had a very long interview with her, a long conversation. It wasn't really an interview, it was a conversation, wasn't it? And, you know, there were 2 parts. There was one about her own personal journey and her ability to break in to the football industry, or the sport industry, I guess, as a female. And then there was also a long conversation that we had about her thoughts and opinions on AFLW. And we decided at the time that we would hold over the AFLW part of the conversation until obviously the AFLW season. We thought that would be most relevant. And so what you just heard was Angela's initial thoughts about where AFLW is at, obviously bearing in mind that was in August last year. So she probably would be happy for the extra couple of teams in. But over the next few weeks during the AFLW season, we'll be playing bits and pieces of our conversation with Angela, and she makes some excellent points. She's very well spoken. Obviously, she's well versed in media, but her opinions are strong, and she's such a good ambassador for females in a male-dominated sport.
Yeah, completely agree. And that little snippet there, she's still very spot on regarding the fact that the AFL still don't quite know how to promote this.
Yeah.
They had a season launch today. They had it in the car park at Melbourne Uni.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked quite spectacular, but it was literally in the car park. It's like, what message is this kind of sending? It's just a bit odd. So, yeah, they're still not quite on the ball about it. And I
just think they still can't bring themselves. I don't think they can bring themselves to actually let it stand on its own 2 feet yet. And that's crazy. One of the questions that we'll play later on in another episode from Angela, we talk about the crowd at that grand final, 53,000. I mean, if that's not an indication that female Australian rules football can stand on its own 2 feet, thanks very much, then I don't know what is. And I think they just need to let it breathe, let it have its own voice, have its own space in the sport, and just get out of the way of it, I think, is the big thing.
Yeah, And just let it have its little bit of clean air. They have listened to the players in some respect, because I am quite pleased. They did announce, I think it was last week or so, one of the things that you would be pretty much after every game, the AFLW, I always have a whinge about they need to get in more senior umpires, particularly because you've got so many new players. Well, that is going to happen. We'll still have a lot of the junior umpires, but I think they named like Ray Chamberlain and Eleni are going to. So AFL-listed umpires will be umpiring some of the AFLW games.
Do you reckon what they should do is have it like a bit of a retirement plan for those umpires that might have just given it away? I mean, it's a short season. It's in good weather. Surely those umpires that have just recently given it up, they wouldn't mind running around for an extra, 10 weeks or so, surely.
That would actually be ideal, because you've still got a lot of new players coming through. I see the same issue at the lower levels where I play. I have a slight advantage because I know what the rules are, because I was trained as an SANFL umpire, which often makes me one of the worst players for an umpire on a field, because I tend to probably know the rules better than they do. But that's where you get injuries, is that they're not protecting the player, and that's what a lot of the players were pushing, was a lot of those tackles, Western Bulldogs, who are notorious for it, unless that gets stopped early, they'll keep doing it because they're not taught by the umpires coming down and saying, no, you're not allowed to do that, fix it.
Now, Nikki, I'm going to send you a stopwatch, because now you have exactly 6 minutes to preview round 1 of the AFLW Crows match. I don't care about the rest of them.
I have no idea how many minutes it is, because you voice cut out to me.
Oh, sorry. Well, listen, let's get on to the AFL Crows match. Obviously, they did quite well in the pre-season or the practice match not so long ago. But injuries are a concern?
Yes and no. For most other teams, I would say you take out the top 2 players and those teams will struggle. I think that's quite a difference for us as a team, because purely we seem to be a lot more evenly spread, and we have that one talent pool, and we've been able to keep the bulk of our players together and within that same thing.
What about sheer numbers, though? It's 24 players, isn't it? 24 players we've got to choose from at the moment.
Yeah. That is a small bit of an issue, but the advantage is we're coming up against Brisbane, and Brisbane have been absolutely decimated, and I think they might be a team that actually goes through this 8-week season without a win, unfortunately. They couldn't even score against Gold Coast Suns, and the Suns do not have a good back line. And they played 2 trial games against them, because one of them was bit rain and everything else, and they still couldn't score.
Isn't the issue, though, really that there's some critical long-term injuries?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, Aaron and Chelsea are really out for the season, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, no, Chelsea's out for the season, and Hannah, formerly Martin, who's now Button, she's out, so she's one of our wingers. Danny Van Hagen did hurt her knee, but she will be back because it was so it's only a 3 to 6 week injury there.
Yeah.
We do have some other wingers and players. But sorry, we will put Stevie Lee on the wing.
I'm talking about like Aaron Phillips and Chelsea Randall, who probably 2 of the best players in the competition, and certainly Aaron's the best player in the competition by his head and shoulders. And we won't have her for the year, surely, because she was injured in the grand final.
She was injured in the grand final, but she is due back at some stage this month. They did announce that. Her, Metcalf, Chloe Shear might be a little bit behind them. She's just had to have another little scrape out.
They shouldn't rush Chloe back. That's dangerous. That's got danger written all over it. No, and I don't think they're going to. No.
Oh, yeah. They definitely will not rush her back, but she's a hell of a talent. She's one we've got on a 2-year deal.
Oh, yeah.
But we brought in Courtney Gum as kind of that backup for the way Aaron plays and the way we were doing it through the pre-season. We could see a little bit on what Clarkie's going to do. I think she's not as quick as Aaron. She doesn't have those skills, but she was, in the second year, she was the MVP for the league, voted on by the players. So there's some definite talent we've still got in our team.
Yeah, but I think the point that Pete probably makes validly is who's gonna take that match-winning mantle from Aaron, because it's a massive hole that Aaron leaves behind, and there's no question in my mind that without Aaron in the team last year, it would have been a much bigger struggle for us, in my opinion. Is that a fair call, Pete?
Oh, absolutely, and also, I mean, for me, it's the two of them, because with Chelsea, it's not, and it's her leadership, and it's the way, I mean, her in the grand final, statistically, I mean, I thought that she was our best player in the grand final. You might have to refresh my memory. I don't think she won the medal, did she?
Aaron did.
Aaron did. Yeah, I thought Chelsea was our best player, and the reason I did is just the way that she just marshalled the team across half back.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? It's just for me, that's just I mean, obviously, you're right, Thing. I mean, the loss of Aaron is huge in a match-winning capacity, but in terms of leadership and a direction on the field, and coming out of defence, it's a massive loss.
Agree with that.
And it's for the season.
Oh, she is. I actually think they are the best two players in the competition. If I was picking like a team, I would pick Aaron first, and my second pick would be Chelsea.
Yeah, no doubt.
Out of all the players in the AFLW, quite simply because those two. But I think what it's going to do is it allows Sarah Allen to step up and be a lot more vocal down in that back line. And she's had 3 years working with Chelsea. Wow. So you've got that 3 years of development coming through. And I think she is an absolute gun as a backman and should have been in the All-Australian team last year, but she's not one who gets highlighted because most of the time the ball actually got stopped by Chelsea before it got to her.
Well, look, name any sporting organisation that can lose their top two players for the season and a couple of other gun players as well. It doesn't matter which team it is. It doesn't matter who steps up. It's going to be a real challenge for the Crows to back it up this year. And let's give them credit. They've shown themselves to be a professional outfit, league leading in many respects initially, and then again last year when they came back. But it's going to be a reflection on their resilience and their ability to find ways to win, because they won't have the luxury of a couple of match winners in that team.
No, but I think it'll allow some other players to shine, which means Daniel Ponta going into the midfield.
Yep.
Hatchard taking that next step.
Yep.
Noffy's really got to up her game.
Marinoff's got to be more consistent and get more of it.
Yeah, she's got to get more of it. She's got the defensive side pat.
Yep.
She's got to work on the other side a bit better.
Yeah.
But, here's a chance to do it.
So
that's
Nikki,
what I'm really looking forward to.
So, Nikki, what are the details of the match? Who are we playing? Where are we playing? When are we playing? And how can people watch?
We are playing Brisbane. I think it's a 4:10 game on Saturday.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is here. Unfortunately, I think this is not going to be Brisbane's day. Even with all of our injuries and everything else, they're unfortunately one of the teams that's been decimated by all the new signings.
Yeah.
And the new clubs coming in, they've just lost so many players. So, it's going to be interesting. I don't think even if we spank them or it's close, it's not going to quite give us too much of information. I think just on how poor Brisbane are going to be, unfortunately.
Yep. Very good. I think it'll be a lot closer than you, Nick, because I think it's going to take a while for the Crows to reconfigure with those key losses. I think maybe talent in the end and home ground advantage might get us over the line. But I wouldn't mind betting it's a bit of a scrap. Brisbane are also a good club. Probably with us, arguably the two best clubs in the competition so far. So they won't go down without a fight. They won't go down without a fight, but hopefully we'll just sneak over. How do you see it, Pete?
I think we'll just. I'm more on your side, Fane. I think we'll just sneak over the line, but I think it'll be a very, very tight contest.
We will have a bit of a wrap-up next week on Tuesday Night Live pre-season 2. But we've hit 40 minutes, Peter. We did it, mate.
Hey!
We did it.
We did it. Look, thanks to everyone who's joined us on Facebook Live, on Spreaker. My lovely daughter-in-law is on Facebook Live. G'day, Baz. Say g'day to the rest of the family for me. Look, we'll continue through the pre-season, as mentioned, building up to a big first round of the AFL men's competition in 6 or so weeks. But until then, take it easy, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys.
Night all.